What's up? I had a question I wanted to ask you regarding just AI and what do you think the impact of AI will be on the future? So I have an analogy and I have an opinion that I wanted to share regarding what I think the impact of AI will be. And it really does play a part, or not necessarily play a part. My opinion comes from where I see Japan and Japan's economy. People think that AI is gonna basically revolutionize the world, right? Everyone's gonna be more productive. We'll be able to produce a lot more. We'll be able to create a lot more because of AI, and because of this autonomy that we have in certain things. Now, I want to make an analogy to Japan, and I want to say, okay, so I believe that Japan is already a test case or like a mock trial of what our world would be like, what our economy, what our society would be like with AI. Now, what does AI do, right? All it really does is it lowers the burden and it lowers the amount of work that we have to do in order to do certain jobs, right? More specifically, more menial and more low level jobs, right? So, for example, maybe low level coding, maybe with some type of teaching, right? Like just lower level jobs will be more or less replaced with AI. Now, why do I think that Japan is a test trial? I want you to think about, so Japan is known for their vending machines, right? They're known for those those machines where you just basically you click what you want and then it automatically comes. I would kind of equate that to AI. Please tell me if I'm, or please like let me know if you think I'm wrong or if you have a counter argument. But in the same way that AI is supposed to increase productivity by basically taking hold of all those menial jobs, right? I feel like those vending machines, the importance of public transportation in Japan, I think that that is more or less a test, like a mock trial of a society or of a future that has AI. I would call it amortized autonomy, where, for example, public transportation, right? It's basically just saying, I'm equating that to something like Robotaxi, where no one's necessarily has to drive, and I call it amortized in that you have one person that is basically they're doing the driving, they're the conductor of like the bullet train or whatever. But then that one person working basically took the job of all these other people. And you can even say that that one conductor would be someone similar to someone that handles the maintenance or like the updates of an autonomous robot or something like that. Do you think that's a reasonable comparison? The same thing with vending machines. So those vending machines, or even the those machines at the front of like people. When you watch YouTube videos, you see people when they go to ramen shops or when you go to any type of restaurant, you see those like little box thingies, and you just click a button, and it's almost like a vending machine, but then it sends a little paper to the kitchen to tell them what to cook, right? Isn't that similar to an autonomous robot like waiter, or is that similar to even, let's say, a a like an Amazon store, right? Where the futuristic Amazon store where they don't have any clerks, they don't have any store workers, they just have a bunch of cameras, or they don't have, unlike the actual Amazon store where they just ended up having a bunch of cameras that were all just linked to some computer in India, and then the Indian people in those call centers or in those centers were just deciding what you paid for. Like the idealistic version. Wouldn't you say that a vending machine is more or less that, just on a smaller scale? And so I guess when people are predicting that AI is going to create a boom in GDP, a boom in the economy, I'm not too sure if that's necessarily the case. I think another big thing is humans in general are a lot more creative than AI. AI, they're all data driven, and that basically means that they're only really ever learning from the past and they don't really have anywhere to grow. So, in my opinion, you won't get those crazy ideas because oftentimes crazy ideas come from ideas that most people didn't believe would work, right? a lot of ideas people thought were just crazy. Think about when we discovered penicillin, when we discovered that washing hands was important. Those, if you looked at previous data, if you looked at previous research, if you looked at previous research papers, those ideas were almost laughed at. People, there's a saying in science, which is science. I forgot what the specific quote is, but it's something along the lines of, when a scientist dies, science progresses, or something like that. Where basically, a lot of the times, the most groundbreaking scientific breakthroughs happen post mortem of the person who discovered or the person who proposed that idea. And if we're single-handedly only relying on AI to do all these menial tasks, maybe we won't be able to progress as much. Secondly, when you have AI that's taking over all these low-level jobs, then you don't really have an entrance to the market, or an entrance to the job market that these newer generations would want, right? In that case, then you don't have any new ideas, and we're equally screwed, right? Without these new ideas, you're just focusing on AI that is constantly only looking at past data, and we all know that looking at past data doesn't really work. When you don't have an entrance for new people to join the workforce, and basically you don't have this opportunity for a lot of people that might have these brilliant ideas as after you refine them, and you're just focusing on, I just want to get this job done, which is what AI does. The problem with AI is it's only ever looking at the past and looking at what worked in the past, and it doesn't necessarily have these absolutely ridiculous ideas or absolutely crazy ideas that are needed in creating new products, right? Think about Steve Jobs, and when he decided that everyone needed an iPad. Or think about, like, there's just so many inventions that were completely shunned and completely just laughed at. So I don't see how, or I'm just worried that looking at kind of the stagnant economy of Japan, and if we overly rely on AI, I feel like this might be something similar and something that might happen. For example, even if you look at just art, right? AI is only ever looking at previous artworks that have been successful, but you won't get any new types of artwork. You won't get any new, like, visionary. Yeah, you could say that certain trends might occur, and you might be able to see certain trends come in and out of fashion throughout the years. But will you ever get anything new? I don't think so, because all you're ever doing is you're just getting multiple permutations of previous artwork. There's nothing really new that comes to the scene. So you could say the same thing with movies, right? If an AI were to generate movie scripts, generate books, generate art, generate code, you're not gonna get, like, that newest algorithm. You won't be able to achieve, or you won't be able to find different ways of looking at solution or looking at problems. And that's just my thought. A lot of people are overly relying and overly just looking at how AI will completely change everything. And yeah, it will make life a lot easier in the same way that vending machines make life a lot easier, a lot faster, and a lot cheaper, right? You don't have to hire those people in Japan. I mean, am I making a false analogy? I don't know, a false comparison? It's possible, but that's just what I see. And I think that people are overly relying on AI. That's not to say that you can't make money in this time period when you have all these companies that are throwing in a bone and, like, an arm and a leg in order to try to get a better AI. But I think that it's not gonna really get anywhere, and or, like, if it does get anywhere, it's not gonna achieve anything as momentous, or as momentous. What's the word? Is as momentous as It's not gonna achieve anything as magnificent as we previously thought. Especially since the past has always been a pretty bad predictor of the future. You can say that things rhyme and you can find patterns after they've existed, but think about it. How many times in economy, in just looking at earnings report and looking at, like, the market itself, how many times have you heard the phrase "it's priced in"? How many times have you heard the phrase "sell the news"? And then how many times have you heard the phrase beat expectations. Those three things cannot are mutually exclusive. You cannot have all three of those be true unless you just realize that the markets are almost completely random and almost everything is just the flip of the coin. And it has more to do with, I think it has more to do with psychology or more to do with positioning of bigger players than it has to do with actual news, and people can spin the news however they want to fit whatever narrative that they want. That's my cynical opinion. I don't know, but I just don't think that the humans will be able to progress if we're creating AI and if we're relying on AI that's only ever looking at the past data and at the past and looking at what worked in the past. Those are my thoughts. What do you think? If you have any comments, if you disagree, if you agree, please leave a comment in the comments below. Have a good one.